I am absolutely beyond delighted to welcome one of the best Irish players, one of the best Munster players in history, live in studio, Mr. CJ Stander. Little round of applause for CJ, lads.
Hey, it's great to see you, fella. For a fella that's you don't hang up the rugby ball, but you tapped out of professional rugby. Hang up the boots. You're still in ridiculous shape. Disgustingly good shape.
It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's really annoying.
Do tricks.
Yeah.
Just wear black. You know,
yeah,
that's one.
Black is slimming.
And there's a trick that you put your tongue in your top of your mouth, and it looks like you don't have a double chin.
Oh, wow!
Yeah. That's all. No, yeah.
Does that work?
I've got a beard. That's why I grew a beard.
You're fine. You look in great shape.
You were in Cork today, and you've been hanging around the country for the last couple of weeks because everywhere I go, I'm seeing photographs and articles about your arrival, and you're still causing a stir. You still have a huge fan base over in this country. Today, you were doing something for A Day in My Wheels to spinal injury people. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I know it's something that's probably that we all take for granted, that we're able to move and be able to just walk around normal, you know. And this day for me, this charity was something I did close to home. I've got a family member who's in a wheelchair, and I was in it now for the last 2 hours, and I must say it's difficult to move around if you don't know what you're doing, and just to think, I'll just quickly jump up here and walk, you know. So I think it's a great charity, and I think it's a great thing to be involved in, and just general. You know, the last few years after I finished up, just to be grateful for what you have, you know.
Absolutely.
To be able to move, so, yeah.
Good on you for giving them some time, fair play. We miss you a lot.
Hugely.
In the green shirt and in the red shirt. How much do you miss it?
You know what, walking around and being around now in Cork and Limerick and Dublin for the last few days has been special. You know, I think the biggest part I miss the people.
Yeah,
of course.
And I've said this before, people think I won't on about this, but I do miss the people, and I do miss walking around and talking about old memories and just Ireland and Cork and Limerick in general. But the game, not so much. I actually dislocated my shoulder a few weeks ago. Trying to be tough, you know, and I tackled one of the lads, and some big South African fella said to me, "Sit down, bud."
But when you come home, though, like, you must be walking the street and people walk by going, that's not CJ Stander, is it? And then they're like, what? It's CJ Stander.
It's the accent, you know. You walk up and people go, "Oh, this fella, I'm not sure if it's him." Exactly that. So me and my mates, I call it the double check, you know. Someone walks, they see you, and then nah, I can't be, and then they hear me, or they see someone else look, you know. So it's funny because back home, I think in South Africa, that I'm so involved in work and keep my head down in the office and then onto sites that I didn't realize that I played rugby almost, you know. When I get the opportunity to get back home, it is great to walk around and be recognized as well. And you know, I always enjoy the kids because you could see they get a smile and there's a glimmer of hope, and I like that.
The funny thing about it is when you were growing up playing rugby, I mean, you had an incredible youth career to get to where you went to, and then for somebody to turn around and say to you, "You're too small to play for South Africa," like, what genius came up with that idea? You know? Yeah,
it was tough. You know, you go through life, and I think life gives you obstacles, and I think that was a massive obstacle. Looking back on that, and you know, you sit there and you think to yourself, I have to make a decision here, and probably not a lot of opportunities. Lucky for me, Munster came along, and they were actually looking for a winger, and I don't know where I popped up, loose forward. I probably looked quick for them at that stage, but when I arrived, they probably thought, it could have been quicker. But anyway, big obstacle, and it was tough, but again, made decisions, and I flew. I remember that I flew into Cork. It was the 1st of October, 1st of November, 2012, into Cork Airport, and life changed.
Did you hear the story about CJ sleeping on the streets? 5 days into his arrival into Cork, so his new Munster teammates go, "We'll bring CJ on the town in Cork," and with very little English, they went on the Raz. You lost all of the lads. You ended up wandering the streets on your own with very little English, not knowing where you were going. You had no phone numbers, no contact for anyone. Where did you end up that night?
I literally knew like one or two names. I knew Barry, the guy who dropped me, and I think I was about it, Mike. You know, so these guys were from Limerick as well. Yeah. So anyway, a long story short, lost them, couldn't get back. What happened was I got to Dom and he said, "Bud," I said, "I'm with the Munster team." He turns around, he goes, "You can't even speak English." So I was like, okay. I got thrown into a taxi, got into the cab, and said to the guy, "Now this is where the English probably got cut short." I was like, "I need to go to the blind dogs."
Okay.
Your man's like, "What?
Yeah.
This guy, you drunk or whatever?" Anyway, sorry. And he just said, I kept on saying blind dogs. After half an hour, he dropped me at the guide dogs of Ireland. I knew that is where I was supposed to be. Walked down, found the house that was supposed to be in, so rattled around to find a key, found it. This is a good 4 or 5 hours later. And went for breakfast the next morning, played to the lads that I got lost, but I did get lost. So, yeah, that first 2 weeks in Cork was special. 12 pops at Christmas, got lost.
The most important thing.
Yeah. Exactly, got introduced to Murphy's. I mean, what a life.
What an introduction.
What more do you want? Wow. But when you arrive over with very little English, and then you have to learn English from guys with Cork and Limerick accents, how difficult is that?
Yeah,
that is the dilemma, because we were doing a Munster race as well for years. The first 3 years I arrived, and we went down to Dingle. And I thought I'd got my English and my accents down to a T. Like, you're from Cork, you're from Limerick, and we got down there. I said, well, this is something completely different. So, and the scary thing is, when I speak English back home, people, they don't think I'm Irish, but they are so confused. It's like, this guy is a South African accent. He's speaking English with an Irish accent. So, like, they call me the world guy there, because I'm like all over the place.
I recall at the Munster Rugby Awards, many years ago, when Axel, the late great Axel, was the team manager. I was hosting the awards, and you were called out as the player of the year, and I think this might have been your second or third year in a row winning it. And I just recall looking across the room, and Axel stood up and gave you a standing ovation, and then everybody else stood up. But he was so proud of you, and he just loved you as a person and a player. He was pretty special.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that come across you, if I get emotional, just excuse me, but people come across your life, and then they put something into you from their side, and I think he spotted me when I was just arrived at Munster, struggling. Obviously the English language is a problem, but then just the game as well, and then just to learn the culture. He made sure that I was invited to his house many times, my family, many times, that you don't have to, and he opened those doors for me, and I just learned from him and his family. And I think that gone into the game, and obviously that year I think we were struggling. We were struggling.
It was a frustrating year.
We were just qualifying for Europe, and we went through a stage where we were spending a lot of time together. And I think that award after that, seeing that, as you said, now he stood up and he gave me a hug afterwards, and that's a personal accolade, but that accolade was more for the team, but for him as well and the coaching staff, because they were going through a difficult time, and then a year later he was gone.
Yeah, it's been tough, and he will always be remembered as one of those super managers who had this incredible relationship with his players. They really did love him, and I suppose you're very lucky to have spent so much time with him. Yeah,
you talk to the family afterwards, and then you realize that you probably spend more time with him than he spent with his family. So I mean, his kids were in training, and I've seen them grow up in Killaloo, and look, whatever you say about him, he was probably take coaching and all those things away. Great human being, looked after his family very well, and he's one of those people. He probably didn't talk a lot, but when he spoke, people listened.
Yeah. And when you're facing the All Blacks, facing the Hack, and you guys are in that 8, can you describe just the electricity that's going through, and what's going through your mind at that point?
There's sometimes in your life again where you do things, and we were standing in that 8, and fair play to lads from the rest of the squad, because we weren't even sure if we were going to play the week after Axel passed away against Glasgow. And then we go to Chicago, and the lad said, why don't we do this and put the Munster boys in front? So you can see it's me, Conor Murray, Tonica Ryan, Ziba, we're all in the front of that 8. But that connection we had there in that 8 was, you could feel it. You knew your brother was there, your teammate was there, and you could feel Axel, if he was there, you could feel the wind blowing in a warm day in Soldier Field. And we came out that day, first time ever. I've never gone to a place where a team has played like that, and I think we saw it on the weekend when Ireland played against South Africa. That was the level we played at, and you could see the team was replicating that and playing even better.
You got to try that day as well, didn't you?
Yeah. I was lucky enough. Again, when I arrived at Munster, I scored 80-meter try. Someone told me the other day. But then I turned into a guy who scored 8 centimeter tries. You know?
The expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
Just dive over.
Yeah.
You've had many of them, probably too many to mention, but in terms of your Munster moments and your Irish moments, what's your standout moment in this country playing rugby?
Yeah, again, I just mentioned that game against Glasgow when Axel passed away the week before. The rugby community is one thing, but then the community in Ireland to get together when something like that happens, it's unbelievable. That was Munster memory. I've got a picture of that. And when I spoke about gratefulness earlier, if I see that at home, I'm like, well, for whatever I have, what problems I have, that was special.
Yeah.
And then the Irish game is, Soldier Field was up there, but then when we beat New Zealand the first time in Dublin, I'll tell you what, it was, I've never seen a place like that. It was, Dublin was just pumping and everyone, the game of rugby brought a lot of joy to a lot of people that day, and that was one of the things I played the game for.
Yeah, you did say in your last test match when you did that interview and you started to get emotional and everybody watching started crying, you said dreams do come true. And little did you know, coming out of South Africa, coming out of the schools, the path that would have been formed for you, for the incredible life that you ended up having over here. So you've had just an incredible journey of it. Now let's jump to this moment in time. You're watching the Rugby World Cup. You're keeping an eye on things at the moment. How do you feel we're going to do? Don't jinx it. How do
Brian O'Driscoll's going to jump out of closet or something like that.
Do you think it's in this team?
Yeah, look, we spoke earlier about it, and I said that it's difficult to call it now. There's so many games, so many things that can still happen.
Yeah.
You've got 4 of the best teams, Ireland, New Zealand, everyone knows this, France and South Africa in playing in the playoffs. So you're going to miss 2 of them already. Mm-hmm. If I look at what I've seen, go back into the South African game, that was probably one of the best games you will ever see in your life. You had players playing at their top capacity, physicality-wise, no injuries, no head injuries, no eye tackles, no red cards, no yellow cards. And for both of those teams, that is the pinnacle. And the one thing as well is South Africa wasn't playing well, and neither did Ireland. There's a few lineouts missed. So for me, I feel those are the 2 teams that's going to be in the final.
We will meet them again, you think?
I think so. And a lot of people say, yes, South Africa could have beat them with the penalties, but if you look at it, Ireland's lineouts didn't fire. The scrums probably didn't fire, and they probably didn't get the ball wide enough quicker. Yeah. So both sides can actually still get better, and that's the beauty of this World Cup. It's probably, hopefully the next World Cup will be this exciting, but to see a team like Fiji coming through, it's great to watch. It's great to see.
Rassie Erasmus, obviously a guy you know well. He's obviously in the media quite a bit, and he's putting a bit of pressure on Ireland this week. But what are his strengths as a coach?
Look, Rassie is working at Munster. He's one of the guys that came into the squad, and he just made sure everyone is firstly comfortable. Firstly understood that the most important thing is winning, and whatever you do during the week, you have to do it well. But the most important thing is Saturday win the game, the 80 minutes. So his best thing is to get the best out of all the players. Doesn't matter what, So that's his best thing. And the media, I enjoy that, because a lot of people come out and say things. In fairness to him, he backs it, and he doesn't shy away. So. But
he's lethal for the mind game.
100%.
Lethal. He's at it again this week.
I saw that piece he said, and I enjoy that. The game has evolved, and some managers do shy away. Some managers go out there and put their neck on the line, and fair play to them. If it doesn't work, unlucky. If it works, well done.
You weren't even born when Euro 88 or Italian 90. You were just born in 1990, so you don't know what this country was like when we got as far as we did in those tournaments. And we was quarter-final territory, really.
Quarter-final 90, yeah.
If we do get to a final, and if we win it, this country is going to shut down for 6 weeks?
At least.
I'll
make sure I get tickets in for just to arrive in.
You need to be back here for after that final. We've got Scotland this weekend. What are your thoughts on that game going into it?
Scotland's playing well. I think they're firing very, very well, and that's probably leading from the Six Nations, where they've kept on building. I think it's going to be a completely different game in the sense that it's going to be a 3-6-9 penalty game. They're not going to. Both teams are going to take the opportunities, and I think if you probably put your money. My money is always on Ireland. As I said before, they asked me to leave the country when I came out last week and said if South Africa and Ireland play against each other, I'm an Irishman. So I got deported for 6 weeks, but
they'll let you back.
Yeah,
but it's going to be a tight game, way tighter. There's probably you're going to see a classic Six Nations game. Counting down to penalties, and again. For me, the biggest thing is just to get through that, get the win, obviously, and then hopefully not carry too many injuries going into the quarters. Doesn't matter who you play.
Yeah.
So I talked about a couple of players, one of those being Johnny Sexton and the impact he's had on Ireland as a whole. But in this World Cup, he hasn't played for 6 months because of injury and suspension, and he hits the ground running. He's just an incredible competitor.
That's the word, competitor, straight. And I think what he's probably evolved in the last few years into a leader, and a very good leader as well. He's a guy that wants the best out of himself, and sometimes probably earlier on he kept push people hard, but now he's actually pushing the whole squad, and you can see that, and it looks like he's probably involved with a lot of decision making off the field as well, and it's great to see that a guy at that age can just come straight in and play some of his best rugby. Biggest thing for me is he's enjoying it. You know, you could see him. I saw him before the game, the South African game. He's taking in every moment. When I made my decision, it's almost that that I wanted to retire, that you go into a moment of clarity when you go onto the pitch, because you know that there's 10 or 9 or 2 or 1 left. And one thing that I regret in my career is that if I had that feeling earlier on, you know, every time I walk onto the pitch, to enjoy it, because I tell you what, it's a great honour, but it's a privilege to be representing your country, but your club as well.
Is there any regret or any jealousy when you see the lads playing in the World Cup that you think I could still be there?
No, not from my personal view. The body, as I said, my shoulder is a bit dusty, but the body is just done. You know, there's no more games left in it, and I think my timing was perfect. I could have played another year, no problem. But the one thing I miss is the crack with the boys. But for me, that takes all of that away. It's just to see how well the team is doing. They really are playing unbelievable. They're enjoying it. You can see they're enjoying it. And I knew, I think everyone knows now that this team is set up for greatness. And they can kick on and create and do something special in the next few weeks.
Finally, CJ, you have all this time now to spend with your beautiful wife and your daughter, and it's family time, and it's work time, and it's construction. You're involved in the BITA. You hope to build, is it 1,000 homes in South Africa and educational facilities? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so spending time with the family has been great. I think when you do retire, it's difficult because there's not a guideline, and each individual is different. So it took a while to get over the hurdles that was in my way, but now I feel I'm settled in and enjoying picking up Everly from school and dropping her is unbelievable. But so we're gonna do. We're planning to do 1,000 homes down in South Africa. The biggest thing here for me is that when I got back to South Africa is that obviously there's a lot of problems, but there's a lot of poverty, and my biggest thing is grown-ups can look after themselves, but kids can't. You know, so if we can help a few families out with a home, and 1,000 homes would make a big dent. And education centres, you know, that's one thing that misses there. And I felt in this whole process that I wanted to do something, but I was not scared, but I was scared if I do something, it's going to be on a small scale. I wanted to, we actually met the guys last year at the Scotland game and the Six Nations, and we got together, and when they said that, I was like, yes, let's do this, unbelievable, we can make a change, and hopefully there's a glimmer of hope somewhere, and somewhere there pops out a talent that we probably gave a chance, and they can surprise us in the next few years.
Brilliant stuff. On behalf of everyone that's ever been to a Munster game or an Irish game, thank you for everything you did for this country, and thank you for joining us at RedFM today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Wake up to Red FM Breakfast with KC.